Welcome to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. I interview incredible people who've dedicated their lives to helping those who've been impacted by trauma. A big thank you to our sponsors and our guests who are supporting this show. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Super excited to have as my guest today, Gabriella Tranchina. Gabriella, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Super honored to be here.
Appreciate that. Gabriella is the creator and host of Gabriella Rebranded, a spiritual podcast about healing after trauma, brain injury recovery, and spiritual growth, told with honesty and dark humor. After surviving a 3.5-week coma, brain surgery, and multiple fractures from being struck by a car, Gabriella reframed her life around resilience, spirituality, and joy, even in the face of adversity. Her work promotes trauma healing, disability advocacy, and personal transformation, inviting listeners to reconnect with meaning, positive energy, and their own stories of survival. All right, Gabriella, I can feel your energy already. I love it. Love it.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Love
the
it.
intro. I was like,
Before we get going, share with the listeners where you're from originally and where you are currently.
I am from Long Island, New York, which you hear when I say Long Island.
Love it. I used to live in Long Island.
Oh, yeah, nice. So whereabouts?
Yeah. In Shoreham.
Okay, nice. I'm from
Yeah.
Manhasset. It's on the North
Nice.
Shore, Nassau County.
Awesome.
And I currently live in Los Angeles. Yes.
Okay. So let's dive in. How the heck did all this start for you?
Oh my God. Well, how it really started was I left a pair of sunglasses at a restaurant and I went back to get them and I was walking back to my car and another car appeared and ran over me. So that's how it really all started. But how this, the podcast and everything that I've done since has started is I really I needed something to cling to. I needed something to believe in because so much when I was recovering was just going wrong and wrong and wrong.
Well, hang on. I don't want to interrupt you, sister, but you got to go back.
Okay.
What the hell happened? You got hit, and what happened?
Yes, I was hit. I was hit by a car. I was crossing the street legally. I like to add legally. And a car didn't see me. They hit me. Brought to Cedars-Sinai. Really lucky. That's a big spiritual moment. I chose a great place to get hit by a car. Second best hospital in America. So I was brought to Cedars-Sinai. They did what they had to do in terms of the brain surgery, and all that. But there was a lot more that went on. I've in the past, for not recently because it's been a little bit of a break, but I wound up having surgeries for 2.5 years.
How old were you?
16 surgeries. I was 23 when I got hit, and my last surgery I had when I was 25. Yeah. So it was a long healing process, and I really needed something to get me through. And that's when I found spirituality. Actually, what started it for me was I read The Universe Has Your Back by Gabriella Bernstein, who you've also had as a podcast guest. And that's what started it. It didn't really end there. I wasn't the best spiritual student right away, but that's what originally birthed it.
Okay, so at what point did you experience the coma, or were you in the coma?
As soon as I was hit, I woke up in the hospital. It's not like the movies. It's not like you wake up and just start talking. It's like a very gradual, a lot of the parts of the brain need to heal. So I gained consciousness and was technically not comatose anymore at 3.5 weeks, but my memory hadn't healed yet. So my earliest memory was a little over a month, and it was leaving the hospital to go to inpatient rehab. And even then, it's a very blurry, very chopped up memory. My entire time in rehab is kind of in and out and black and white. Some things I remember very clearly. A lot is a blur. But yeah, that's my biggest takeaway that I want people to know is that waking up, so many people ask me, what was your first thought when you woke up from the coma? That's not how it works. That's how Hollywood makes it seem, but that's not how it works. So I wouldn't know.
So you wake up
Yes.
and what are you feeling? What are you thinking?
Okay, well, my first memory was the sound of my mom's voice telling me I was hit by a car. No visuals, just the sound of her voice. Apparently, kept forgetting what had happened, so my mom had to tell me about 6 times that I was hit by a car, which was traumatic for her in her own right. That's really really hard. But my first concrete thought, aside from the fact, was being thankful I wasn't texting while walking. I was walking, not driving. But aside from the fact that I wasn't staring at my phone when I had my accident, was and I was crossing legally. My first real thought was, this will not all be for nothing. The only way out is through. Um, and this won't all be for nothing. Something good is going to come out of this. I will not just have a break from my life and that is it. It's going to produce something really great.
Okay. So that's a pretty kick-ass feeling and thought to have. I
Yeah.
mean, was that you going even before this?
No, not at all. It's so crazy because now people always talk about how positive and bubbly I am. No one would have described me as that before my accident. I think I was a pretty negative person. I was a pretty negative person. If there was one thing I was good at, it was complaining. This accident was, it really woke me up. It really sort of changed everything about the way I move through the world. I'm a much better person now. Yeah.
So how did you get there? Were you just, hang on, before you answer that. So forgive me for projecting, but were you in bed? I mean, at some point going, what the fuck is going on? How am I going to, did you have experienced self-pity?
Yes,
Dep-
so I was determined to move back to LA. I was living in LA at the time and I was determined to get back here because I did not want my life to be on pause. And I thought the longer I was out of LA, the longer I wasn't hanging out with my friends, the longer I was an actor at the time, the longer I wasn't pursuing acting, the farther away I was getting from myself. And I was determined to get back. And all the way up until LA, I had a pretty positive disposition. And even though I was very underhealed and should not have moved back, I seemed physically fine enough because my problems were up here. And we didn't realize how bad, I say we, meaning me, my parents, my deficits were until I moved back and I was responsible for running my entire life by myself. Because while I was recovering at home, I had my parents. They were making sure the fridge was stocked. They were making me food. They were driving me here, there, everywhere. And then I went to LA and suddenly I was by myself, alone in a studio apartment, and I had to do everything. I was determined, or I thought, that something was going to click into place eventually. And I thought, the law of averages, I had a lot of bad, and now I was going to get some good. Something's going to click into place eventually.
right.
Everything went wrong. Everything. I wasn't let back into my acting class. I lost a lot of friends. I was having panic attacks left and right, which drove a lot of people away. I wasn't having panic attacks while I lived at home. They started when I was back in LA living by myself. I couldn't function. Just managing my own life was impossible. I couldn't even do my part-time job. I couldn't do
No.
anything. And just before the first year anniversary of my accident, I came home and I went to a Reiki healer, Tina Conroy. She's the one who told me to read The Universe Has Her Back. I owe everything to her. She was just a local woman from around my town that my family knew growing up. And I went to her and I was like, everything's going wrong. I can't get something to work. I thought I was the universe's comedic relief. That was how I said it. I was like, I think I'm the universe's comedic relief. Nothing's going right. Everything I try, I am losing. I was desperate. I truly had nothing to believe in. Um, and then in December, because this was about in October that I saw her, in December, a surgery that I had went wrong. It was one of the 5 surgeries
Oh,
I've had for this eye. And it was over a month of 5 complications. It was ultimately deemed a failure. So now I wasn't even healing correctly. And
mm,
I was just in this self pitying state of like, I cannot get everything. Like, I've lost everything. And truthfully, I was a little suicidal. And I said, I didn't have plans to kill myself, but I said if another car came around and hit me and this time I died, I wouldn't be upset about it. That was how I truly felt. And then I went on a brain injury retreat via the organization Love Your Brain, great organization. And I had a
What?
very
Hold on. What is? I've never heard of it. What is that?
Love Your
And
Brain. Oh my
well,
God.
yeah.
They are fabulous. They are an organization that was started by Kevin Pierce. And if you remember the Vancouver Olympics in 2010, there was that snowboarder from America who was expected to beat Shaun White. And then, like a month out from the Olympics, he got really hurt. I don't know if you
Mm,
remember that. I vaguely remember that.
vaguely.
Yes, that was Kevin Pierce. And his entire life was going to be a snowboarder. He was pro snowboarding. That was all he knew. And then while he was training, he had a gnarly fall, sustained a TBI, had a brain surgery, which is what I have going on. He couldn't go back to snowboarding. So similar to me, his friends were snowboarders. His entire life, he had dropped out of normal school to work on snowboarding. That was his everything. His girlfriend was, and he lost everything. How he moved forward is like me. He decided he wanted to bleed something positive to the world, and he started Love Your Brain, which is
Okay.
an organization for brain injured persons and also their families. There's a caregiver support group that my mom and her original tribe, they still independently meet over 3 years
Well,
later. Yeah. And
well,
I went on this retreat, and that's what inspired me to start my podcast, because I was finally
wow.
validated. I finally met other people who knew what I was going through, which I hadn't yet had. I finally
Mm-hmm.
met other people that knew my struggles. And I said, I need to be this for other trauma survivors. And I don't know
Wow.
about all types of trauma, but I'm going to do the best I can.
Look at you. I love you. I love your energy and your passion.
Thank you.
So you was that a turning point for you?
Yes, it was
Okay.
a major turning point. When am finally done with my book and it's published, because I have to do a bit more CPTSD therapy healing to not be toxically positive in the book. I owe a lot to that. That retreat was the turning point in my recovery. That moment, it was almost a year and a half after I had had my accident, and that was the start of me creating the life that I have now, creating the disposition I have now, creating the energy that I have now. It was finally being validated. And that was like, wow, this was what I needed. I felt so alone for a year and a half. I need to give this to other people, because it was really just finally being heard.
Finally being heard.
Mhm.
Talk to us about that experience. Was it like you're in a group and just people got it? They understood you? Say more.
It was 3 days of pure validation. That's how I describe it. And the first day, there's a lot of us. So we only got 90 seconds. But for 90 seconds, you talked about what brought you to Love Your Brain. You talked about what happened. And hearing what everyone had been through, no matter how big or small, there were overlaps in all of our experiences. And it was an incredibly emotional moment for me just being there. And the 3 days we got to know each other. We had a lot of activities. There was a lot of bonding. I'm still close with a lot of people from my original retreat. I love volunteering there now. I volunteer, I go back all the time. And it was just finally connecting with other people. And also for me, I was 23 when I had my injury. I was 24 when I went on this retreat. Not many people have a traumatic brain injury, or not a traumatic brain injury, but a severe brain injury, a severe medical situation when they're as young as I was. And it
Yeah.
was finally meeting other people that were as young as I was when they were sort of picked up and thrown out of their life. And it was this camaraderie that it was developed among all ages. But wow, it's not just me, because for a while it felt like it was just me. But when you met other people, it's not just me. And then it was also, I learned that I was healing really well, and I
Mm-hmm.
was doing everything I was supposed to do. and that I still maintained my voice and the ability to articulate and talk as clearly as I still can after everything I had been through. Visually, I can't do anything visually. I'm the queen of losing my phone. But I've still maintained this. And I was like, holy shit, this is a blessing. I need to use this.
So I love it.
Yeah.
So you decide there that you're gonna start a podcast. Share with our listeners the name of your podcast.
Gabriella Rebranded. That is the name of
Okay.
my podcast. That's my social media. That's everything. And that was the name of my podcast. And I had always, so many people had told me to write a book. And so many people had told me to start a podcast before I'd gotten hurt. People were telling me to start a podcast because I'm great at talking. But I was like, I don't have anything to talk about in a podcast. And then this happened, and I was like, oh, I've got a really huge topic to talk about in a podcast. And that was the moment I got serious about starting a book. That, again, we're still not done with because I have to heal some of the CPTSD a little bit more to finish the book. But that was when I got really real about the podcast, because if I wasn't perfectly healed, I could start the podcast because I could take it from the perspective of, I'm a student and I'm learning all this with you, and I'm figuring all of this out too. I don't have it all figured out yet. I don't think
Right.
any of us will ever have it all figured out. But I'm still at the beginning of my journey, and I'm right there with you. So my podcast is very much from the perspective of student and learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is it, Gabriella, that I mean, I understand validation was huge, but let's say walking into that retreat, you were thinking you were all alone. What? No one would understand. No one understands you. What is it that you was keeping you so isolated in a sense, maybe physically and psychologically, before you walked into that room?
Well, I think the most beautiful moment that I had while I was in inpatient rehab that my mom brings up all the time is there was one point where I was in my bed, like I could barely talk, so it was like this. But I said, I'm the only person under 80 here, like on this brain injury floor. That's how I felt. LA, unfortunately, at the time I was there were no brain injury support groups
Wow.
in LA. And there was none. And sure, there were online ones, but it wasn't the same. I needed someone with me. And
Yeah.
there were none. Now, California Rehab, which is where I was posted up in Century City, Los Angeles, has a brain injury support group. So I want everyone to know that now they have that. But they didn't at the time. So I knew no one that understood it. And the problem was, I present like this. I look pretty physically fine on the outside. I can walk. I can use both my arms. I can talk. I can do all that. So no one really knew how hurt I still was. No one really knew how damaged the brain was. So from
Mm-hmm.
everyone around me's perspective, all the other former friends from before my accident, it was like, well, why isn't she back to normal?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, I think they didn't have the energy or the capacity to be patient with me and extend the energy that I needed, because I needed a lot. I needed a lot of hand holding still. And it was this completely lost moment where I couldn't drink, which was wound up being the smallest thing in the world. But loud noises, I have hearing sensitivity. I couldn't take that. Bright lights, I couldn't take that. I still need to sleep more than the average person, but it was especially bad then. Overstimulation, I still get very overstimulated. So I couldn't go out with my friends. I wasn't, my job was remote and it was only part-time. So I did, because I could barely do anything. So I didn't have friends from work. I lived in a studio. I was so alone.
Mm-hmm.
I had no one around me. And I was so desperate for connection because I couldn't find any.
What is your goal with the podcast? Like when you've decided I'm going to do this, what was this you wanted to do?
to be the voice for others that I needed when I was going through the worst and the worst of the worst of the worst, sorry. But to be the voice for others that I needed. Um, because I had no one. I didn't think anyone got it. Brain injury is very, very intricate and it's very confusing. And even I'm blessed, my father is a doctor, so he's a better understanding. But even my mom sort of had no idea what was going on with me. She kind of still she tries her best and she's great. I have the best mom in the world. But there's still a lot that she doesn't get because it's here. It's
Mm-hmm.
internal. And as much as my dad has a knowledge more than most, there is a bit he will never understand because it's in here. And it's you got to feel it. You got to live from my perspective. So it felt like no one got it and no one understood me and people tried their best but no one was fully there. And I know how when I was isolated, when I was so alone, I was so negative that it wasn't aiding my recovery. Positivity aids your physical healing so much. It aids everything in your life just flows to you the more positive energy you exude. And the first place that that positive energy starts is just someone who understands. And I still, to this day, when I meet other, not just brain injury survivors, but medical trauma survivors, it's such
Mm-hmm.
relief. It's like, oh my God, someone finally someone understands. My friend Alyssa says that it's like we have a shorthand with each other. That like we're able to just understand, pick right up what the other person is going through. And I was like, wow, all other trauma survivors, regardless if it's medical or not medical, need this too. They probably also feel this way. So my goal with the podcast was that.
So give us a little understanding, and not that we're going to completely understand,
Yes.
but what is it that people don't understand about people who've experienced a trauma such as yours?
I think what people don't understand is a brain injury, it's lifelong. It's not an event. There is no, it's actually, I recently found out, considered a chronic illness now. So
Well,
it's not something, I won't one day just be back to normal.
like get
Um,
over it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am different. Who I was before the accident, I'm not her anymore. I love her. I miss her. She would be really excited to know who I am now. But I'm different. That is very true.
Would you mind sharing how you're different?
I was someone who was, I never needed alone time. I didn't like to be home by myself for more than 5 minutes. I was so extroverted. I was always down to do
You're
anything.
pretty extroverted now.
I, I'm still extroverted, but I need my recharge time. If I'm doing something on a Friday or Saturday, I have to be very selective with who I give my energy to now. I can't say yes to everything. If
Yeah.
I'm doing something on a Saturday, then I have to stay in on Friday. I'm a lot more cautious now. I
Mm.
was kind of, which isn't a bad thing. I was a little too reckless, as a lot of young people are. We all think we're invincible. I have to be more cautious now. I'm so much more empathetic now. I'm so much more I cry all the time. It is so easy to make me cry. But because of that, I also feel so much more for people and I take pain so much more seriously.
Mm.
Um, I have a lot more of a refined grasp on the fragility of life. And there is definitely a level of emotional intelligence I like the people that are close to me to have. And before that, I was a very, I was very like, I'm trying to find the words. I didn't give a fuck. Like I was a very I didn't give a fuck. I was negative. I was kind of like whatever about other people. I was very I was super super dramatic about which I still am a little bit, but dramatic in terms of anger and dramatic in terms of sadness and dramatic in terms of everything had to be an event and I was so confrontational. Whereas now, it's definitely more, that's not that serious. It's not that serious. I promise you. That little thing that you're throwing a temper tantrum about, I promise you, it does not matter. And I used to throw a temper tantrum about everything. And now I'm like, I promise you, as long as your health is okay, your loved one's health is okay, you know where your next meal is coming from, there's a roof over your head, the rest you will figure out. The rest will all be figured the fuck out. It's not that deep. And I made everything deep. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were working at a particular job. You weren't able to do that. What is your employment situation like now? Are you able to work?
No, I'm definitely not able to do a typical 9 to 5. I'm not allowed to look at a computer screen for more than like an hour and a half. I just need more rest than the average person. I get overstimulated very easily. It's the unfortunate reality that the people with my level of injury, I think only about it's either 5% or 3% will be able to go back to working a normal 9 to 5 job with my level of injury, which was a very severe traumatic brain injury. So I am not able to do that. What I am doing now is I'm writing my book and I'm producing this podcast, and I'm really blessed to be in a situation, and I know how blessed I am. That is not lost on me at all. I give thanks for that every day, but I'm really blessed to be in a situation where I am able to do that. And part of how I'm paying it forward, being so blessed to be here currently, is that with all this free time, or not free time, but with all this ability and flexibility to not need to have a standard 9 to 5 job, I could be kind of living a purely self-serving life and doing whatever I wanted. And instead, I'm using it to give back, and I'm using it to spend every day devoted to how can I help other people. And it's kind of self-serving. I will say that is kind of self-serving because it helps me.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Well, not unlike a lot of things we all do, right? There's a give and take there. Wow. Okay. So, tell us a little bit more about your podcast. How is it structured? Do you invite people on, or is it you, or what?
It's both. It's a mix of solo episodes. It's a mix of having guests. It depends. I'm definitely still figuring it out. I'm only in my second season right now, but I think I've got a better grasp on what I want it to be. So I'm moving into a way of my solo episodes are tending to be more short, get those quick episodes in, like less than 45 minutes, an easy thing to put on your commute to work. And when I have guests, I don't necessarily want to cut short what they're saying if they're talking about something really important. So guest episodes may be a bit longer, around an hour. What's important to me with the guest episodes is I had a veteran on recently. I had a sexual scholar who's an expert in sexual assault and things like that and sexual trauma on. I'm having a breast cancer survivor come on. So there's a lot that I don't know. And that's sort of how I'm hitting the basis of addressing other types of trauma. And then in my solo episodes, I talk about what I know. And I also give general spiritual lessons for all types of trauma survivors, no matter how big or small your trauma is, because all of life is traumatizing.
True that. Yeah. All right, Gabriella, how do people learn more about you and your podcast?
Okay. The way to learn more about me is Gabriella Rebranded everything. So Gabriella Rebranded is the name of my podcast. It's the name of my Instagram, my TikTok. That's my website. Sign up for my newsletter on my website. That's the best way to get access on when new episodes drop. And yeah, that is it. Gabriella Rebranded. Also, if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, you can head over to my website. We have a fun little form for you to fill out.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. We'll have all that linked up here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. Gabriella, you are a breath of fresh air. I love it. Love you. Seriously. Love to have you back at a later date. No pressure if you don't want to, but would love it.
I would love to.
Love your energy. And I think in this world, we need people like you who are just like exuding this not just positivity, but this courage and strength. So thank you for joining me today.
And I wouldn't have gotten here without the coma. So
Appreciate it. All right. We'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. This was great.
All right.